In this video, I'm going to be talking about a summing amplifier. A summing amplifier is basically an amplifier that takes in two inputs. So for example, here it's taking in V1 and V2, and it adds both these inputs and gives it at the output. So basically, a summing amplifier is a circuit that sums up two voltages. Uh, in other words, what the operation that it is doing is addition, right? So let's look at how this circuit works. So the current through this resistance, let's call it I1. The current through this resistance, let's call it I2. Both these currents are flowing this way, and this current is going to come here. And both these currents are going to add up and go through this, because the current into the op amp is zero, right? We already said that. So the current that's going inside here is zero. So all the current that comes in is going to go through this branch. So the current that's going here is going to be I1 plus I2. Okay, now what is the voltage at this point? We need the voltage at this point. No, we need the voltage at the inverting terminal, because we want to find out the currents which are going through this resistance and this resistor. Right? So what's the voltage at this point or this point? That's going to be the same voltage. It's going to be the same voltage as on the non-inverting terminal. What's the voltage on the non-inverting terminal? It's 0. And therefore the voltage here is going to be 0. So I can write I1 is equal to, basically, it's going to be V1 minus 0 over R1. So which is going to turn out to be V1 over R1. So I1 is V1 over R1. Similarly, I2 is going to be V2 over R2. Okay, so this current, let's call it I, which is I1 plus I2, is equal to V1 over R1 plus V2 over R1. Oh, this is R1, not R2. Right, R1. So now what is I in terms of VO? Right? So the potential on this side of the resistance is 0. The potential on this side of R2 is of course VO. So I will be equal to 0 minus VO over R2, which is minus VO over R2, right? But I is also given by this equation. So we can equate both those. So we get V1 over R1 plus V2 over R1 is equal to minus VO over R2. And this implies that VO is equal to minus R2 over R1 V1 plus V2. Now if we choose R1 and R2 to be equal, we can see that it just becomes minus V1 plus V2. So it's an addition, but it's an addition and the signal is inverted, right? So the summing amplifier is basically adding V1 and V2 and inverting it and giving it at the output. And of course, if you want a certain gain to the sum, you can put a gain as well. So this kind of gives you one more block in your bag of circuits, right? And if you want to add two signals, you can just pick up the summing amplifier and use it in your circuit.